So as I record this video, there's a good chance that this side of my face might get brighter and brighter. The sun is rising in the east, and yeah, that's what's happening over there. I was gonna try to make this video before that happened, but it is what it is. So enjoy the potential progression of my face getting brighter and brighter on this side, and I think it's already starting to happen. Let's talk about the intersubjective space between two people. Something that I've learned in psychology is, um, from what I understand, this term, the intersubjective space. It's something that I've been learning a lot about, especially as I do the work on myself. Um, and so basically, the intersubjective space is the space between two people, right? And whatever it is that occurs in that space, which of course is decided by those two people, is what occurs in that space, right? Um, it is experienced differently based on boundaries or a lack thereof. You could see total full on fucking war unfold between two people. And you could also experience full on fucking, I don't know, anything. It's really just a matter of, just for contrast purposes, you could experience full on peace and beauty of connection. Um, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not here to validate or invalidate either side. Um, well, I guess I should, it's important to validate, right? The very reality of every experience that every individual experiences, right? It's important to validate that because what is experienced, and it's really just that simple. To consider that somebody didn't experience something, be it joy or pain, leads to invalidation, gaslighting, a lacking overall in identity, sensory perceptions, all these different things. Um, and it's cool to mention that in such a video as that of a subject that explores intersubjective space, right? The space between self and other, right? I and thou, right? Me and another person, right? Um, it's fascinating to me, and I'm actually happy that I'm making this video because this is really the icing on the cake of the reality of relationships, right? And I can bring in an element from, I believe it was yesterday's video, or it was even maybe the video before that, just kind of a collection of different elements from different videos. If you're dealing with an individual that is emotionally immature and is, you know, and again, I'm not going to mention any names, even if I talk about my own experiences. If you're dealing with an individual that is emotionally immature and has a challenging time with boundaries. If you're emotionally immature, you're going to have a challenging time with boundaries. And with that, you're likely to take things that are not personal attacks as personal attacks, even if the person tries to reason with you to get you to understand that what they say or what they said had or has nothing to do with you. You might still find that challenging. And it might present challenges for your own connection. If you are instead, however, dealing with somebody that is emotionally mature, has a very developed sense of self, is wholesome, does not require external validation and approval, does not derive their worth externally, right? Because worth is an intrinsic thing, it's an intrinsic game. You're going to have a very different intersubjective space experience with them. The potential for wonderful play between the two of you is going to be euphoric. It's going to be ethereal. It's going to be heavenly. It's going to be glorious. It's going to be lovely. It's going to be everything incredible, right? If you are instead dealing with somebody who does not have a well and healthy developed sense of self, right? They didn't get healthy ego development, and instead they're pretty fucking sensitive in regards to absolutely everything. You're gonna have a very hard time developing anything in that intersubjective space. Anything that is really worth developing to a large degree. And that's just the reality of it, right? Um, in my own experiences, transitioning from unhealthy to healthy relationships, I've noticed that the potential for a fucking beautiful lotus to develop between self and other in healthy relationships is incredible, right? Now, instead, if I'm dealing with somebody who is emotionally immature, lacks healthy boundaries, obviously, because they're emotionally immature, and because of that, they are sensitive to absolutely everything. You know, like, say, for instance, if you deal with somebody, I'm going to use a metaphor here that I think will be helpful. This skin right here, right? This skin protects me from feeling things that if I did not have it, you know, if I otherwise did not have it, life would be pretty fucking painful, right? Like if you took this skin off of me and all there was the raw flesh underneath it, right? The tendons, the muscles, this, that, and the other, or say for instance, if there was a wound right here, might be a better example to utilize that. I mean, I could still utilize the other example, but if there was a wound on my skin, a gaping fucking wound, a hole, right? And every time anything touched that, it was agonizing, right? Um, it'd be pretty hard to live life. That is the way that a lot of people live their life, though, due to emotional immaturity, due to fucked up ego development. They are exceedingly sensitive. It's not good or bad or right or wrong. It just makes it challenging to, one, be a fucking human being, and two, carry out relationships with other people, interpersonal dynamics, right, with other people. Shout out to you if you just heard that growl in my stomach. I am getting hungry. Um, yeah, if you have an overly sensitive dynamic where you take everything that everyone else says personally as a personal attack because you have not developed healthy boundaries, you're going to have a very hard time developing something beautiful in the intersubjective space between self and other. Right? You're going to take everything too personal. You're going to be very sensitive about everything. Nothing right or wrong or good or bad about high levels of sensitivity, right? I have I'm highly empathic, right? I'm not going to say what led to that, boundaries. But with that, I have also done a fuck ton of work on myself and I have healthier boundaries. I had to pause there for a second and be like, um, you know, um, I used to, well, still to a large degree, um, I have permeable boundaries. That is challenging for me to admit. The humility. Developing a healthier self and healthier boundaries really does require a lot of work and takes time. And that's just the way that it is. But yeah, there was a point in my life where I did not have these healthier of boundaries. And I may have been more sensitive to things. I may have not seen the whole like my shit, your shit boundaries thing. And I may have taken what people said as personal rather than seeing it as their shit, right? And that really does change everything. But so let me just make this very clear. When two people are in a relationship, they both have a healthy sense of self, and with that, healthy boundaries. They're gonna have a lot of fucking fun with each other. A lot. It's gonna be a wonderful, glorious, lovely dynamic. Because they don't get stuck at every little thing each other says. Right? People that are emotionally immature, that lack healthy boundaries, that lack a healthy sense of self, right? Because they didn't get it in childhood and they haven't even done the work on themselves to get there. They're going to have a very hard time in relationships because that intersubjective space is going to be a fucking unnecessary war zone due to emotional immaturity and lack of healthy ego development rather than this beautiful fucking developing lotus between the two. Right? And that lotus becomes this thing where you can even get playful with it and you can start to like turn the leaves and stuff, right? And you can be like, whoa, that's beautiful. And then you realize that you're both contributing to the development of this lotus flower. And you can start to be like, wow, thank you. This is beautiful. The way that you compliment me is wonderful. You know, and put that back, turn it around, look at it. Wow, I didn't even notice that side. You're wonderful. You're doing so good. The way that you are adding to the sculpting of this lotus flower. Wow, I'm so proud of you. You're incredible. And not idealizing. I need to make this very clear, right? Not idealizing, right? Not idealizing, idolizing, however you want to say it, devaluing, demonizing. There aren't those extreme opposites. You both understand that you've got your shit, right? And that's the beauty of it. There's no extremes here. There's the understanding that you're both human. You both have been through shit. You both have done the work and are continuing to do the work. Right? No child leaves childhood unmarred, unscathed, without trauma. That's just the reality of it. But there are some people that have had such fucked up, and I'm not here to say that some people's, I'm not here to compare traumas. I'm just here to say that there are some people that have had such fucked up childhoods that they literally, to such a very severe degree, lack a static sense of self, right? And that's just the reality of it. And with people like that, it's a lot more challenging to develop a beautiful structure of intersubjective space. That's what the theme of this video is, intersubjective space, where boundaries either exist or they don't. What takes place between two people. If a person is emotionally immature, the intersubjective space is probably going to consist of somewhat of, you know, shrapnels and shards of this, that, and the other from the fucking war zone, back and forth war zone that is taking place because everyone, the two people in that relationship take everything personally. It's all personal attack. But between the individuals that are healthy, I really need to make this clear because this is the reality of the difference, the contrast of the difference between unhealthy individuals and healthy individuals when it comes to couples and relationships. And this could be whether it's platonic or romantic, right? The way that two people decide to approach the intersubjective space, self and other, I, thou. What occurs there? Are you aware of what occurs there? Of what's occurring there, right? Are you still dissociated? Are you showing up to the relationship half alive, half asleep, right? What are you allowing to occur there? Why are you allowing to occur there? Is it healthy? Is it unhealthy? It's not good or bad or right or wrong, but there is the difference between it being healthy or unhealthy. And that's the reality of it. And so when I approach the intersubjective space between self and other at this point in my life, I'm really focused on being aware of what it is that's already there, asking myself if I want whatever's there to continue being there, asking myself if I need to communicate otherwise, and just focusing on the sculpture of whatever is taking place, right? If it's a beautiful lotus, focusing on the hues, focusing on the textures, focusing on everything, focusing on the colors, the way that the light hits this side, the way that the light hits that side. That's how it works. And there, again, I will make this very clear, there is a drastic, contrasting, night and day difference between unhealthy relationships, unhealthy dynamics, and healthy relationships and healthy dynamics.